All right, so today I'm joined by Ramirez. He's coming off a win at XMMA, where he actually had an impressive call out. He's one of the fighters that was removed from TUF 31 because Conor McGregor came in and had a few of his teammates that he wanted to push. So basically, he got on the mic and asked Dana White for his opportunity to come in the UFC after getting a big win. How are you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be on here.
Great, man. Well, I mean, let's just get into it a little bit. I guess to start from the beginning, how did you get into qualify to be on TUF 31 to begin with?
So the way it went down is I actually got emailed by, well, my coach told me, hey, look, so for those who don't know, I live in Las Vegas, right? So that's where I'm based at. I'm based out of Syndicate MMA.
Okay.
I'd been here, been hearing because the production goes on here. It's in Vegas. The UFC's here. The PI's here. All that stuff's here. So um, I'd been told by a coach, hey, look, they're doing your weight class. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll think about it. And then shortly thereafter, I guess, my coach had given these guys my name, and the producers reached out to me and emailed me and said, hey, we're interested in you. Will you fill these applications out? Will you do this stuff? And I was like, all right, cool. If they're emailing me about it, then I'll for sure do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I wasn't trying to go try out or do this, do that. I was thinking I would just, get a few more fights and go contender series. Honestly, that was my plan going into this year. But when the producers emailed me and were like, hey, we're interested in you, fill this stuff out, I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. So filled out the applications. They sent me a camera. We did like, a few different interviews. They said, okay, we like your story. We're gonna bring you out, bring you over, I guess, because it's down the street. But
Uh-huh.
we're gonna, we like your story. So at that point, I got like a camera, a little camera and some stuff sent to me. It was like, production stuff, like go film your life, whatever else. Went through that stuff. Did that for a few weeks, almost a month, and then ended up going to a hotel over here and was quarantined with all the fighters. Right, so that was like
Yeah.
the last phase. Now we're doing medicals. Now we're doing interviews with ESPN, with Octagon, with all these different things. Like at this point, it's like it's become real. And it's like you've invested a lot of time. I invested a lot of money, to be honest with you, to do this right and to train hard, hired a nutritionist, and all these things that in the past I hadn't done. That was like, hey, if this is going in the Ultimate Fighter house, everything's got to be on point. And I'd actually just come off an injury. I just broken my foot, and I just barely got cleared when these producers emailed me. So it was a real crunch to get there to begin with. We get through. I'm in the hotel for 10 days. Going into the hotel, we knew it was going to be Connor. We knew it was going to be Michael, and we'd been told that. So we were, obviously you'd be pretty pumped, being in that position of like, all right, the opportunity's here and it's a big one.
Right.
Um, Gets to the end of the time period in the hotel, and they basically say, okay, and they kind of said this before, like, okay, some of you guys are gonna end up being alternates, but you'll be on a short list. If anybody gets hurt, they'll be like, so don't, don't just be ready for that. But at that point on that day, I'd been told that, hey, you made the cut, like you're gonna, we like your story, you've got a good story, and and we like you. So I was told that, hey, say bye to your people, hey, send your last text, make your last calls, like, your phone's getting taken tonight. So I was
Mhm.
like, hey, crazy, so obviously I tell my people and everything. And then, time comes around for the phone to go, nobody comes, another hour, another hour, another hour. And then finally a producer comes to my room and says, hey man, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm really sorry, but Connor landed today. And when he landed, he had two guys with him and he's demanding to be on the show. And, basically you're out. His guys are
Wow.
in. You're one of the guys. You're one of the guys that isn't going to be on. Because of that, we're really sorry. We know that you're gonna, go far and you're gonna get opportunities, and it's we all know who you are over the UFC, so on and so forth. So, I'm like, okay, that takes a little bit of the sting off, but still, you're like, damn, dude, I put so much time and money into this, and now like I already told people about this because like y'all told me to call people, and now I've got
Yeah.
to go back and be like, actually, so
Yeah, I was
it
gonna
was.
say, how did you initially take that? Because like you just touched on it a little bit, they told you kind of you would get an opportunity, and maybe did you take that as like a glass half full, or were you still pretty bummed about it at
I mean,
first?
dude, I was bummed. I was bummed, man.
Yeah.
But that was the silver lining,
Okay.
and it was like, okay, like, all right, well, if I'll get a shot, maybe they'll give me a short notice fight, or they'll do something for me at some point. Somebody contact me and be like, hey, this, or my manager or whatever else. I figured something would come of it. And then I saw an interview where the media asked Dana White about it, and he was like, "Oh, this is a stupid question because of course these guys are going to get taken care of. You
Right.
know, these guys are going to get opportunities and so on and so forth." And I was like, oh, okay, sick, man. Like I kind of like took that as like, confidence that okay, if Dana's saying that, then like at some point something's coming my way. This will be, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And uh, when I was in the hotel, so this is a little backstory of what went on. So when I got out of the hotel, I basically, while I was in the hotel, I contracted a staph infection. So I was injured.
Mm.
Hospital was, my knee was all messed up the next week. After I got out of the hotel. And for that reason, I wasn't vocal until now, because I was like, okay, they're talking about giving an opportunity. Well, I don't want to be like, give me, shake the tree while my knee's not healthy, because it got inside my knee is what happened. Like it wasn't just like a normal skin staph infection. It was like internal. So
Gotcha.
it pretty good, dude. It was not fun. It took like 6 weeks to recover from that. So anyway, at that
Saying
point,
you weren't as vocal at that point just because you had the staph, and then moving on from that.
like, if it sucked because it was like the iron's hot, like I want to strike it, but I'd contracted the staph infection while being quarantined there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like kind of a double whammy of like, okay, nothing's coming and you're sick as hell now, and you can't like speak
Ask
and
for a fight. Yeah.
like speak my piece of like, give me something now, and actually
Right.
another guy that I was in there with that got kicked out, he actually got a short notice fight. His name's along
Loic. Yeah.
yeah. So we were actually on the ellipticals next to each other in the hotel on a couple of
Damn.
different. So he got a short notice opportunity like the next week, and I was like, oh man, okay, I got something coming. Once again, a little, here we go. And I haven't said anything for those few weeks because I really only got, this was probably like, I was probably healthy like a month and a half ago again after this, right? Because this just happened like in February.
Mm-hmm.
So beginning of April, I'm healthy again, and I'm like, all right, let's, I'm getting to the point where I'm trying to get back in shape to take a fight, basically, in the beginning of April, and nobody said anything to me, So at this point, I'm kind of getting nervous as far as like, man, did they forget about me or whatever else? I was like, hey, well, I guess I got to go make some noise, and Contender Series is not that far away. They're already matching it. I haven't heard anything from anybody. My manager's talking to people, but know what's going on. So it really, dude, this last fight was just me being like, fuck it, dude, take it in your own hands, because I got that notice for that fight like on April, I think 20th, maybe. Right. I'd been in Miami with my girlfriend. She fights for the UFC, Cynthia Calvillo. We'd been in Miami for 10 days for her fight. So, came into that, not even, came out of that not even healthy. I was just in Miami drinking beers, dude, to be honest with you. I was training out there. So coming back in and having this fight pop up, because I'd been hearing that I was gonna, we were trying to match for another promotion like the LFA or Cage Warriors or something, just to get another win in and let make sure these guys don't forget about me.
Yeah.
And XMMA popped up with this opportunity on 2 weeks, and for whatever reason we decided to take it, and it played out the way it did. I got a low kick finish and got to get on that mic and say my piece, and here we are talking.
Yeah, and dude, I watched the whole clip. That was a fire fucking speech you had there with everything. I mean, you touched on your backstory, which we'll get into as well. And then we'll get into the win. I just wanted to go back a little bit on something, which was why do you think it was like you guys that were chosen, in a sense, like you and Loic? I don't know Loic's record, but your record is one of the probably best amateur records out there. I mean, all first round finishes. You're like exactly what they're looking for. I don't know if you were still 30 at the time, but right at that perfect age too. So, I mean, what was the reason? Were you guys not like UFC veterans and they were going for that on the show? Or why did they kind of choose you guys? What do you think?
I can't speak from his side of things because
Yeah.
he's a veteran. Or, well, I guess you're right. He would have been on the, because now you're right. He was not a UFC veteran, but he's a
Right.
PFL.
Yeah.
I've seen him. He fought a friend of mine, Alex Martinez, and he's fought on big shows before. So, but you're right. He's never been in the UFC. So I can only speak for myself on that, and that's that. When I got there, I was 6-0, at the time. So early on, one of the producers was like, okay, hey, there's a lot of guys with a lot of experience, so make sure you know your interviews, make sure that you put your best foot forward. He's like, you have a great story. We know you can hang with these guys. But the only thing is, like, there's guys here with 30 fights, and you've only got 6 fights. So you got to stand. I took that as, okay, let's go. And I killed my interviews, and they told me so. And this was like early in the quarantine at the hotel that this is going on. This is like first, second day. We were there for kind of like, storylines playing out to all the way to that last day and, that last night. So, and they went to the Ultimate Fighter house the day after that, like the next morning is when they took him. So when they
Oh, I
told,
see.
apart from me, that's when filming started, was the next morning.
Okay.
But anyway, to go back to the why, I can only guess, and my guess is that one of the guys that he brought was 5-0 at the time. So I'm assuming that, because there was so much depth, that they were like, okay, we're only going to have, they're going to have like one rising low record prospect. You know what I mean? That, like you said, like whatever else, and then the rest of the guys are going to be guys like, Jason Knight with a shitload of fights, and a few other guys that I know on there that are over 10 fights in their pro careers, things like that. And for me, it's just been shitty too, because I've had 6 opponents pull out of me week of the fight in my professional career, like 2 that I made weight for. So being at 7-0 should be 13-0 right now as far as I'm concerned, but it's just been bad luck, and that's the fight
Wow.
game.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you're not, you've got less experience, and honestly, this other kid they brought in is probably less experienced than me, dude. I've been doing this since I was a little kid, man. I just have made bad decisions that have made this moment take a little longer than it should have.
Okay.
Little thing that makes me even a little bit more frustrated with the situation. But to answer your question, yeah, man, I think that's what it was that his young and up and coming prospect buddy took my slot. That's my best guess.
I actually heard something too where I forget which Ultimate Fighter it was, but when you come in and you make demands and stuff, they may give you your way. But I'm curious if they matched up McGregor's guys against, like, some of the this is what it was. Did you hear Henry's coach, Cejudo? He talked about why him and Brandon Moreno aren't friends anymore. And it was because he brought Moreno in, right? Like he went over Dana's head, brought in Moreno. And then so what they did is they pinned him to where like I think it was seeds, right? So if you got the first seed, then the bottom seed goes to the opposite team. And Moreno was the bottom seed. So it was like, and Cejudo had the first pick. So that they broke that friendship because like Cejudo went over his head. So I'm curious if they matched McGregor's guys up against like some tough guys, because like you said, they're less experienced than you even.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, man, I don't know I don't know. Here's the thing about that season, every dude on that season's tough. That was another thing, is like this season of the Ultimate Fighter is different in the fact that, I mean, they've had some veteran seasons before, for sure, but I feel like the talent level on this show is pretty high.
Yeah.
And if you look at guys that they brought in as vets, all those guys are tough, man. It's like Austin Hubbard, Jason Knight, who's the other guy, man? Tall guy, can't remember his name right now. UFC vet. He's got like 4 bonuses in the UFC across like 7 fights. Roosevelt Roberts.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's a dude, the veteran side of things, you got your work cut out for you, And me, that was exciting because I get to prove myself. But I wouldn't be surprised to hear that his buddies fell on some tough lessons on this season.
Because he kind of went over Dana's head there. But let's talk about so you talked about the post-fight speech, and you called your shot, really compelling. I saw it went viral on Instagram. Like a lot of posts have been made about it, not just one even. So I'm sure the UFC has seen it. And you're managed by Danny Rubenstein?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's, up in there with the UFC. Have you heard anything since the win? Because it's been about I don't know, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good traction, it's been good noise. So I know that, Danny's talking to, the matchmakers at the UFC. I know that, of course, other shows are trying to throw offers, and things like that too, which has happened before, but even more so now. So I mean, it's gotten everybody interested. But I don't know what'll come next. I'm hoping, I'm thinking that, and what it's sounding like is, maybe Contender Series or a short notice fight. So we'll see what it is.
Okay, so it sounded like Contender Series. You might have to prove yourself again, or you might get that short notice fight, huh?
Yeah. Hopefully I just get to get in there and fight somebody, man. Because at this point, I'm ready, man. I'm always in shape. I moved up to 170 pounds now, so I can wait on short notice, right? Building my body instead of breaking it down. So, and that's what this last fight was at. So it's like, I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever comes. I think that my life in general and this last experience has just taught me that, it's going to play out the way it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And you be as prepared as you can and take whatever opportunity comes your way.
And are you sold on the UFC? Like, is that where you really want to land? You might be willing to pass up other offers, or how dead set are you on making it into the UFC versus taking other offers?
I mean, I think it just depends on the offers, is
Mm,
down to. But I mean, I've always dreamed of being in the UFC, and I got into this when I was young, and where I wanted to go was the UFC. I think that in the United States that, that's kind of the top of the pile right now. There's other guys that are coming in and they're starting to be competitive for sure. And I think in the next few years we might see the landscape change. But at the moment and for the foreseeable future, the UFC is still the UFC. So I've always I wanted to have that in my career. I'd wanted to have fights there in my career, So I don't know. So it's kind of a hard question because the landscape has changed and there's other big players, and
mhm.
there are other offers, to be honest with you. So that's where we wait and we see
Yeah.
and try to make a decision for my career.
And just speaking on that real quick, I mean, who knows if this has any truth to it at all? I wouldn't know, but you hear about Bellator might be getting bought by PFL. So if you get any offers from like the Bellator, for example, that might be a hard decision just because you're not sure where you're going to end up like a year from now. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, yeah, I would definitely. I think the only two that I would consider. I mean, well, if what you're saying is true, Bellator is a
Yeah.
good org, has good fighters, and has been around a long time. But here I've kind of heard those whispers too. So if I was gonna, I mean, it'd be the PFL or one championship. Those are really the two. I think the big three at this point are the UFC, PFL, and one championship. Those are the guys that uh, have the reach and have the money and can really put a fighter on essentially. At the Bellator too, like I said, but if they're getting bought, so I'm kind of including them in the PFL.
Okay. Gotcha. And have you heard what month Contender Series is going to start back up again?
I think it starts in August, but
August. Okay.
you never
May,
know.
June, July, August. That's like 3 months out.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking too, because that might work out nicely. I know the UFC's coming to Utah, I think towards the end of the year. So if
June 9th. Yeah, that's
you're
my
from Utah, right?
from. Yeah, I'm from like
Yeah.
30 minutes. Like,
That'd be cool if you could take a short notice or even go Contender Series and then hop on that card.
it'll maybe next if it's contenders, it'll be the next year. But I wish they'd give me a fight on that card, dude. That'd be a dream come true. Go fight in my hometown, Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Start, and if it, maybe you know, I don't know. We'll see what they do, man. But I hope that I'll never hope anybody, misfortune to
Right.
fall off hard. But if somebody does have the misfortune, I'll do it in a heartbeat, man.
Yeah. It's a crazy sport. Like you said, you've had 6 guys pull out on you. So something might come your way in that sense where somebody pulls out on someone else. But I'd like to talk about the other thing you said in your post-fight speech, which was that you were in prison. I think you said that you were like addicted to heroin or something at the time. And being from Utah, I think there is a little bit of that out there, right? So I guess can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing? And you said you also fought your whole life. So I mean, I'm interested to hear about all of it pretty much.
Yeah, so, I mean, just from the beginning, I grew up in Utah, and I grew up. I wrestled pretty young. I was from my uncles and my grandpa and stuff were into wrestling, so they made me wrestle when I was real little. But I was always just kind of a knucklehead. Growing up, I never really wanted to focus on anything that wasn't what I exactly wanted to do at the moment. And as I got a little older, found myself in trouble. Found myself kind of set apart, kind of being bad kid and whatever else. And by the time I was 13, 14, it was drug, it was crime. It was starting to go that way. But I was still, in and out of wrestling rooms that whole time. I was
Mm,
still, 14 when I actually started, getting high and kind of partying. At that point was the same time that I figured out what the UFC was, and
mm,
was the same age I was the first time I went into a fight gym and like spot grappled and learned some of this stuff. Rented a UFC DVD from Blockbuster type of thing, and went from there. And from then on, and from that moment on, I knew I wanted to fight. It was just the things I was doing weren't really conducive with that. So it was kind of a push and pull. As the years went on, I wrestled in high school, but at the same time was doing a lot of drugs and really that was kind of like the only reason I was in school is because I was on probation and my probation officer would make sure I was at school. So if I was at school, I might as well do what I wanted to do, and wrestling was part of that. That's what all my buddies did too. So wrestling and training and going back and forth and partying and that progressed to real drugs. By the time I was 17, I was doing heroin, I was doing cocaine. There's a lot of drugs in Utah for those who don't know.
yeah, that's
Uh,
why I mentioned that.
Yeah, there's a lot of drugs out there, and drugs, breed crime and bad situations. So, um, that's just kind of where I found myself, was addicted to heroin at 17. By the time I was 18, I was super addicted, and pretty shortly after that, I was shooting up, dude. I was a full blown junkie, man. By the time I was out of high school, I didn't even finish high school because I was so strung out, and
Mm,
kind of forgot about the MMA dream at that point, to be honest with you. But uh, at 20, to kind of sum it up, the legal battles had come to a head, and well, not legal battles, my bad decisions, legally had come to a head, and I got arrested for robbing a drug dealer, and they didn't care it was a drug dealer. It was still a robbery, and I went to prison for 3.5 years for it when I was 20.
wow.
And that was like, most terrible moment of my life, I guess, and some of the most terrible moments of my life. But at the same time, it's what turned me into who I am in a way. At that point, I was still just a little boy. I was still just a scared kid that was a lot of crazy shit, and was pretty tough for what he was. But going to the place that I had to go to as young as I was, and learning how to become a man in that environment is really what has built me into what I am today. So yeah, man, that's why I got started late. I got out of prison at 23, had my first, hit literally that day, went to the best fight gym within, a 30-mile radius of me. And I haven't
Same
stopped.
day.
Yeah, I don't think I missed a day of training on purpose, a single day since. You
Damn.
know, that undefeated amateur, undefeated professional, you know, as a pro, I've got 6 finishes across 7 wins, man. And honestly, dude, the only guys that don't have crazy records, uh, either have gone on to have better records or were the only dudes that would say yes.
Mm.
That was that my manager at the time, it was like the hardest thing ever to find me fights. And it was like mind-boggling to me. It was like, these guys are pro fighters and they don't want to fight. Like, what the fuck? Care who it is. And but now we're to the point where I think, we're headed in the right direction. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you've been out, what, did you serve the full sentence of 3.5 years? So you were been out since you were 23 and a half, pretty much?
Yeah. So they sentenced me to more. They sentenced me to like, I think it sentenced me to like 4.5 or something. And the way Utah works is like, it's indeterminate sentencing. So they sentence you to like a 1 to 15 year term,
Hmm.
and then crime, and depending on this and that, you got to go in front of another like group of judges essentially while you're in prison. And those dudes are the ones who decide whether you're going to do 1 year or 15 years, and they can do whatever the fuck they want. Doesn't
Damn.
matter. And a lot of crimes fall, all these felonies fall into either 0 to 5, 1 to 15, or 5 to life, unless
Hmm.
it's like hardcore shit like that. It's like 25-year minimums and things like that. But yeah, dude, like that was what happened with me. Was I went there and they looked at this, they looked at that, and they said, okay, they sent me to a total of like 4.5 or something like that. But because I kept my nose out of shit, and they didn't catch me doing anything stupid while I was in there, they released me with a little bit of good time. So that's why I did 3.5 years.
Okay, gotcha. And I'm really curious, man. How did you rob the drug dealer? Like,
Hey, what?
how did you rob the drug dealer? One other thing though, because a lot of people think that if you rob a drug dealer, they can't go to the cops, right? So
Yeah,
they think it's like a good idea, maybe like nobody's gonna call the cops, but just tell
yeah.
me about that.
Oh man, yeah. How drug dealer? Well, you don't understand why I went to prison. It was a home invasion, dude.
Oh,
I crawled through his window, and I knew where he kept his guns. So I went into where he kept his guns, and then I took his guns and then robbed him in his own house.
oh shit.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it was crazy, bro. It was a bad situation. I was up to no good at the time of my life, honestly. And to be completely honest with you, I was pretty fucked up when I did it. So yeah, dude, I basically went in dude's house and took all of his shit, you know, kind of how it went. And then I think, a few dudes
You,
got hit. No, you know what I mean? And at the end of it, you draw the short stick when you're two buddies to decide to say it was all you, and you keep your mouth shut because that's what you thought y'all were gonna do.
so it was you and 2 other friends as well.
Yeah, it's me and two other guys that I used to hang out with.
Okay. And then did you guys like take all of his stuff basically and then he called the cops after?
Pretty much along those lines. Yeah, we robbed them.
Okay.
I mean, I could go into some crazy details, but I don't know how to do that.
No, I
But
know. But it's a closed case, right? So I mean, all this stuff came out in court and all that.
yeah, it's dude. I went to prison for it, so I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it's not that big a deal. But no, yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, you do what you do, man. You go in there and you it was this white. What's your favorite robbery movie?
Yeah. That's what you modeled it after, basically.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's a robbery, dude. Like it's I don't know.
That's
It's
fucking wild.
how it goes down. But yeah, it was crazy, dude. And honestly, afterward, when all of it was said and done, and I was in jail, I really couldn't remember a lot of it. Like over the years, I can
Oh,
like over the next few days and in a little while, like I've gotten some more memories of it back. But it was crazy. Honestly, I woke up in jail and was like, what did I fucking do? And literally watching myself on the news, dude, in the holding cell, like, oh fuck.
damn.
For life, dude. This is dope. Good luck. And I knew I was fucked, dude. I mean, there's no way you don't. In a state like Utah, too, I'm actually really lucky. And like in some of the comments on some of this stuff, this podcast I did and whatnot,
Yeah.
I'm like comments of like, you only did 3.5. That's like some people like because I was like, yeah, the judge threw, the judge laid me down because she didn't send either of the two dudes I did it with to prison. She only
Hmm.
sent to prison. So yeah, I did get a little laid out by that one. But on top of that, I do realize how lucky I am because you can do 15 years on that easy and a
Yeah.
lot in Utah. I mean, the charges I was originally charged with for what I did was like 5-year minimums, up to
Hmm.
life. Average is going to be like 8 to 9 years on those. So, I'm fortunate enough to have been young enough, or I don't even know, dude. I think at the end of it, the judge probably just, I think the judge and the prosecutors bad at the end of it because uh, when the truth came to light, because at first, the way the charge was laid out was my co-defendants said it was all me and they were scared of me and I made them do it. So the charges were a lot crazier, like as far as how I was being perceived.
Hmm.
And it came out that like, no, dude, like actually this was their idea. I was actually doing pretty good in my life at the time. I had a job and shit. I had my relapse was going and hanging out with these fucking idiots. Let's put it
Oh,
that way.
okay. Yeah.
You know? These fuckers were up to no good already. I'd gone to rehab and kicked heroin like 7 months before this, and wasn't doing any hard drugs anymore. I was done. Like I was doing good, but got lonely and went around some mild homies, and shit went bad within a few hours. To be honest with you, so that's life, I guess. But yeah,
Do you know what happened to those guys? Are they in jail now, or you even know?
I don't even know. To be honest. I know they both struggled a little bit. I mean, I've ran into him like once. I bumped into one at a gas station at one point.
No way.
Yeah, and I saw another one at a funeral of a friend of mine who died. So
And did you say anything to them?
I
Because
mean, one,
that's 3.5 years of your life.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. That when I bumped into the guy at the gas station,
Yeah.
I was at work, and this was like I'd only been out for a little bit. I was working. I was working a construction job, and all my coworkers were around me.
Hmm.
Fucking needed that job. I was
Oh,
training, working all day. It was I was making like first time where I'd been able to get something. Dude, my charges made it really hard for me to hire. So this was like the
sure.
first I like could actually make enough money to pay half my fucking bills, essentially, to pay my rent and do all the stuff I needed to do, to live on my own shit. So I was kind of as much as I wanted to do something or say something or whatever else, like I didn't want uh my coworkers to know that about me at the time. So I was like,
Okay.
I mean, like if they know this and they tell this guy this, I mean, they might have already known. I don't know. They do now, obviously, but like at the time, dude, I really needed that job. I
Hmm.
really that job. I just barely, and I only had it for like a few months, so it was like bite your tongue and like realize who this dude is. But also, you know, even if they wouldn't have been with me, I don't know, man. I feel like at that point in my life, I had already kind of not let it go. I mean, for me, it's like not even like, oh, I forgive you kind of thing. It's just like I know that the best revenge is a successful life, and I had to
Hmm.
kind of what I came to terms with in prison. For a long time, I just wanted to get revenge and do whatever you would think you'd want to do. And then I realized, for one, if they snitch once, they're going to snitch again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on top of that, like all I'm doing is harboring anger and resentment that's eating me alive and taking my energy away from my goals. And that they're just fucking me up still. So I'm still losing this battle, and I don't like to lose. So fuck that. I pushed it out of my mind, and I focused on my goals, and you know, my success is my revenge.
Yeah. Just kill them with success, basically. Don't harbor that resentment because it takes a lot of your energy too that you could spend training and whatnot.
Oh yeah, oh dude,
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, man. I'm telling. I mean, not just the anger towards them, but just anger at life situation. Shit.
Right.
Life's hard sometimes.
So I got a few more for you, man, but I taken like 30 minutes of your time, so I just want to make sure everything's okay. You don't have anywhere to go. Or
Yeah, you can go.
good.
I'm honestly.
Okay, for sure, for sure. We'll keep going then. So you went to prison when you were 20. Was that like your first experience there? Because 20 years old, man, going to like a prison, that's tough. If you've never had any experience, I would imagine. I've never been myself, but
Yeah, no, that was my first time in prison, but I've been to jail. Like I think like a couple times as an adult already, and I've been to juvie we call it detention in Utah. I've been to
mm-hmm.
detention probably a dozen times, and I've done
Okay.
like 9 months in a boys' home, 4 months in a work camp. Like I'd been in trouble, bro. Like I said, like I've been doing some crazy shit since I was pretty young. So I was I wouldn't say I was institutionalized, but I wasn't super far off from it. So going into prison was like different for sure, dude. Like grown up prison is crazy, dude. Like you're celled up and you're living with dudes that are never going home. This is like a totally different environment.
Mm-hmm.
Where jail talk about how many days they have left. These guys talk about months as if they're days. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how many years do you have left? Man, I've only got 10 years left. I can't wait. It's like, fuck.
Damn.
It's a different level of despair is a good way to put it. So I don't think you can ever be prepared to go there. I mean, you can be prepared, I guess, but yeah, dude, I think what else are you gonna do? But what else are you gonna do but get through it? It's all you
Yeah.
can.
So how did you handle that? Because I don't know if you had to cauliflower ears back then, but
Not
young
like this.
kid, huh?
I said, not like these.
Not
No, not
like
this.
that. So you
No.
might have looked like a kid who they could try to test basically. Did you get
Oh,
in fights and all that kind of stuff and have to prove yourself to some degree
oh,
or
oh yeah. I mean, that's
yeah.
kind of to be able to hold your space. So, I did a good job of just trying to heal myself and studying. I did a lot of reading and meditating and spiritual work to try to heal the shit that was wrong with me. That was the reason why I was doing heroin and doing all this crazy shit anyway. So, I really tried to use my time positively, but you're in a very negative environment, and because of that, there were times where I had to hold my fucking ground against dudes that, for whatever reason, wanted to test me for this reason or that reason. So yeah, man, you learn a lot about yourself in there, and that's like stuff I've said before in some interviews. They're like, oh, how does cage fighting? How do your nerves? You seem so relaxed in the cage and da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, dude, because there's a ref in here, dude, and like I'm
Yeah.
getting like I've been in a lot of fights in my life, and this isn't just like, oh, I'm a street fighter guy, whatever else. It's just the reality of my life. The life I lived is I've been in situations where it was like win or who knows what. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's those situations, like I said, like the experiences I've been through have galvanized me to the person that I am. That's like, my fight name's the Fight Stalker. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's like, for me, like that's the product of my experiences, is that guy you see in the cage talking shit and punching dudes in the face and laughing when he checks kicks. Like, that's what it is.
And so when you were in prison, how did you kind of rehabilitate yourself, like you said? Because was it like a come to Jesus moment as soon as you were arrested, or what were some of the steps you took in that crazy environment, to kind of create like your own world, I'm assuming, to where like you're focusing on what you're gonna do when you get out versus being consumed with some of the craziness going on, people talking about I got 36 months left and whatnot.
I mean, for me, it was just about like controlling my space. Like for instance, what I was going to do with my spare time. I got told pretty, there was some, older, I guess vets of the system, whatever you call them, old numbers is what we would call them. But like there was just some old numbers that gave me good advice early on. Like, hey, if you want to stay out of trouble, don't join a gang, don't do drugs, don't gamble, and stay out of extracurricular activities with the ladies of the section, which is pretty easy for me to do. But I guess those are four different things that can get you in trouble in places like that, because you run up a drug debt, you can't pay it, you're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
You run up a debt, you can't pay it, you're probably gonna die. It's like it's stuff like that, or get severely injured at the very least.
Yeah.
Um, there's just certain things that you don't want to get involved with to keep yourself out of trouble. So for me, you're going to have to be affiliated with some stuff by the nature of where you are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be like a bona fide member of this or that, or you're having to, you know, it kind of I guess the best way to put it is you can control your actions, and your actions can put you in better or worse situations.
Okay.
Simple as, you know,
Gotcha.
you hang out on the yard, or you want to go hang out on the tier with these guys, you want to go gamble with these guys all day, make these guys your buddies, and now these guys, you know, I mean, now shit pop. You know, it's like now you're tied to these guys or those guys. Where for me, it was just like, hey, I work out all the time. If you want to work out, you can work out with me. I just train hard as shit. I read books. You know, I subscribed to all the Fighters Only magazine and this and that, all the MMA productions.
Okay,
Would
cool.
cut out pictures and hang them on my cell wall. Told myself this is what I was going to be when I got out. You know, I just dedicated myself to it, dude. I'd get desserts. I'd trade pieces of cake for pieces of protein.
Oh,
You know,
really?
that was like how I lived my life in there. And honestly, I think, one of the reasons why I probably was able to stay somewhat out of trouble was that, people saw my work ethic and they respected it. It wasn't, oh, I'm saying this and I'm saying I'm that. It's like, no, this is like, I do this every day. And if you get to know me, this is what I want to do with my life. So it was like, I don't know, as well as, dude, I was about as big as I am now, bro. I was probably a little bigger than I am now, because all I did was push-ups and pull-ups and lunge buddy on my back all day. I was pretty stacked, bro. So although I was only, in my early 20s, I'd have still fucked your ass up in there.
Yeah, and they could tell. I mean, a guy who takes his fitness seriously and stuff, they're looking for the easier prey, I would assume, in jail.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, like, yeah, it's like if it's me or the skinny dude, over here
Right.
who, cries himself to sleep at night on who you're going to try to take advantage of, they're probably going to try that dude first, So
Yeah.
fortunately for him.
So just a few more for you. Just one off of that though was like when you're in there, you're kind of doing your own thing, but did you have to because it's racial, right? Like blacks are with blacks, whites are with whites. So is that how does that work? Like, are you able to do your own thing and not be affiliated, or is there like a middle ground, or is it like all or nothing? How does that work?
It honestly depends on the facility, and in Utah, there's definitely rules, but for the most part, it's not like in Utah, it's more blurred lines, because there's a lot of different like gangs that aren't necessarily racial, right? There are races and stuff like that, and there are like racial gangs, but there's also like a lot of gangs that like that have multiple races in them too, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's why Utah's kind of a little different in that sense, where I think the prison recognizes like 160 different gangs.
Yeah.
And these guys all have alliances or, umbrellas and affiliations and things like that. So if you're not affiliated, then you can kind of, do your thing. I mean, I where I was at, dude, honestly, like where I did a lot of my time was in small sections with a lot of lockdown time, so in a section, there was probably only, 40 dudes, 50 dudes in a day. For a lot of the time I did, it was just stuck in a box. Like, it was shitty time, dude. It was like, it wasn't there wasn't as much movement in most of the facilities where I stayed at. So while it was good because there wasn't as much politics going on as, I mean, there's still politics, it's still prison, and the sections, like, I mean, you are still going to like communal areas at times and things like that, but it's definitely not as bad as some of what you'd see in like federal prisons, or probably like California prisons, or a lot of these other places. So, I mean, the actual facility of like the prison in Utah is probably a bit more like that, because it's just way bigger and I mean, they rebuilt it, so I don't know what it's like now, but I didn't spend too much time there. I probably spent like maybe 4 months of my stay in that part of the prison, like in the actual like cell block, and then was housed at like this little mini prison out in the middle of nowhere, where they house like 400 or 500 extra guys at a time. But it's just shit, dude.
You don't want to be there.
No, dude. Honestly, I
No.
would rather deal with the politics, dude,
Yeah.
and have access to weights, and have access to the sun, and have access to like CD players and shit like that. Like where I was at, it was hateful, dude. It was like, you better know how to read, bro, or you're gonna go crazy.
Okay. So when did you get so you only did your weights in the room, basically? You weren't able to do like dumbbells. You were just, that's why you said push-ups and lunges and shit.
Yeah, all body weight, dude.
Damn.
They didn't want the inmates to get too big, was their excuse. They said, we don't want you guys getting too big, so weights and do steroids and wouldn't give us weights. So we would like save up our soda bottles and fill them up with water and hide them in a cell until you got 50 of them. And that's what you're doing your curls with.
Yeah.
We'd feather across our backs, do lunges, squats with your buddy on your shoulders, push-ups with a dude, laying on your back. We'd work ways around it, dude. We'd
You just get creative.
build mitts out of toilet paper and socks, hit pads in the cell.
That's dope. You should fucking we'll move on past this because I want to talk about like how you turned your life around after that, and then we can finish up. But real quick though, there's a guy who makes like jail food on YouTube. Have you seen him at all?
Probably, dude.
Yeah, he makes like the spreads and whatnot. He shows you. Yeah. If you ever see him, he's the guy where like he'll be like, "Hey, you want like an orange juice?" And then like some guy in the background's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I got you." If you ever hear that, like he always says like, "I got you."
Yeah.
But I was gonna say you should make one about like how you fucking like improvise gloves and shit like that, and like how you kind of trained in a cell.
Show you how I protected my hands when I was hitting toilet paper rolls, dude.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Did you ever eat like a nasty spread or anything, or you stuck to like good food while you're in there? Because some people eat wild shit, dude.
I mean, dude, honestly, yeah, dude, you eat whatever you
You get bored, or that's what I think in my head. I'm like, these guys must just get bored.
dude. Yeah, you get bored, but you're like, here's the thing, dude. Is like if you're only eating the food they give you, hard life, bro. You're like, it's not. You're not gonna die, bro. Like, you're not gonna like be, laying on the bed emaciated, but you're definitely not gonna do a workout that day and feel good. It's not a lot of calories, and it's not a lot of highly nutritious stuff. It's all processed shit, and a little bit of like it's like it's not like nutritious food, and on commissary you can order like nacho cheese and ramen noodles, dude, with like salami sticks. Like, so it's like you just eat whatever you can get.
I would eat that. That sounds all right.
If that's like your main course, too many nights in a row, bro, it gets a little stale, So.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, so let's wrap it up then. But let's go into, after you came out of jail, not very many people are able to turn around their life. You were able to get a job and stuff. You said how you were able to kind of like focus your mind while you were in there. But, coming out 3.5 years, you have to reacclimate. You don't really, know how to use a phone, social media probably at the time. So just tell me a little bit about this journey you've been on since you came out of prison.
This is crazy, bro. Honestly, like missing this on an interview is crazy. I don't done this, dude, to be honest with you.
The podcast, they didn't ask you about all this?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but they were like, their questions were different,
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit. I guess we talked about it a little bit, but I guess the way you're asking the questions is just bringing up, and the things we've already talked about is bringing up funny memories. But
yeah, I'm imagining. I'm trying to like get those memories out of you. So tell me about it.
So no, I was dude when I got out, I was an alien, bro. 100% alien, dude. Like I remember when I first went in, and like smartphones were kind of a new thing, Like they had them, but not everybody had them. It wasn't like you didn't have to have one yet. Like This was like 2012 when I first went in, and when I got out, dude, it was like, dude, I mean, so when I went in, me and like two of my buddies had an Instagram. It was brand new. Facebook was still big. It was like people were starting to find out what Instagram was, but Instagram was like a brand new thing that just like kids had. It wasn't like nothing like it is now. And when I got out, dude, it was like people were talking about, man, I'm so bummed that Vine isn't around anymore. And I was like, fuck is Vine? Like, it come into existence and disappeared while I was in there. Like cultural trends had happened and disappeared. Like like you gotta understand, like 3.5 years, it sounds like a long time, but like it is a really long time. Like people like live like small lives, like lifetimes, like go through phases of like life by the time, especially the age I was 20 to 23. Like those are like, that's when you're in college. That's when you're like a lot of like, I was an alien to answer your question. iPhones, like I got a new iPhone 6 and it was like I was stuck on it, dude. I was like, this is crazy, bro. Like this is what we have now. Like, it was just like everything was, I mean, it was cool, honestly, but yeah, social media is something that I'm still and now I'm starting to get a little bit better at it, but not as good as I should be. But it's been like one of my, I guess, an Achilles heel of mine is that I probably need to pay somebody to do my social media. It's just,
well, hey, a lot of people have seen you, so maybe you'll get someone offering.
I mean, I just feel like I existed for so long without it that like as an, you know, as an adult and in those years that like, I mean, I'm definitely addicted to it now, just like everybody else is, but I just feel like I almost missed that wave. You know, I caught the small wave behind it. Everybody's like riding this big ass wave in front of me, and I'm just kind of observing, I guess. Like,
Yeah. You
but
might have a little less anxiety than the average person then, because I think that's probably better for you, honestly, to not have it.
for sure. Oh, and I got out. I was like, I'm not, dude. These people are all crazy. Because, dude,
Yeah.
when you're an alien that visits this planet, let me tell you what, dude. And you see what everybody's doing on the phones all the time, the jokes everybody makes about it. I fully experienced that, dude. Like
You're like,
I
what the
can't.
hell?
And I was like, what the fuck? Everybody's like this. They just stare all day long. And I
Like in the
remember being,
line, right? Like if you got no one to talk to, you're just gonna look into your phone. That was new to you.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I was crazy. I was like, nobody's even like life is way different than when I went in, kind of thing.
Right.
And like, I remember being like, I'm not gonna be one of these people. That's so lame. I'm not gonna stare at my phone all day. And within a year,
That's wild.
days when I got the iPhone 6, honestly, I was like, okay, I understand now.
You're like, all right, this is pretty sweet. Especially when you got nothing to do, you got this phone that just gives you access to everything.
Yeah.
But so you started training and all that. The last thing I kind of want to ask about is like basically coming from where you came from, how like all this stuff. It's hard to put into words exactly, but coming from where you came from without having anything in prison, like even fighting, like something that's crazy to the average person. It's almost like a luxury to you, I'm sure, with the gloves, you're wrapping your hands with toilet paper and shit. So, like, how has that been able to propel you to be like a great fighter in a sense? Does that help you at all? I guess is what I'm asking too.
I could do it. I guess, you know, it's, I feel like, I don't know if it helped me. Like, I mean, this is what I'll say. While everybody else was training, you know, during those years of their career, like they were like, you know, learning these skills and learning these things, like that was hardening my mind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest advantages I have in this game and why I am who I am is because of my mental toughness. You know, like I said, like I'm just, when I'm fighting, dude, these other guys aren't what I am in there. At least I haven't met one yet, you know, that becomes what I become when I'm fighting, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it's adversity and the struggle of my life that I've turned into that, you know. And it's been, I can say that now because I've had enough fights and I've been in this game long enough to see what my peers are like in the locker rooms, in the cages, in these places. And I'm different. I am like, I'm different than my peers. So yeah, dude, it did help me because it made me mentally resilient, man. It made me not subject to the nerves of normal people, made me grateful for the small things. You know, just today I got a new pair of puffers, and I was like, man, all right, okay, I like the angle that this knuckle lands at, and like I'm like
Mm-hmm.
just getting the workmanship in it, and like, all right, I gotta remember that. Okay, this is what you know, I like my other ones; those are good ones too, but these ones are gonna be better for this and that. And like, I'm more strategic in the way I approach everything, from my gear to like my training. You know, I feel like I put more thought into this than most people do, because I want it so bad, and I've wanted it so bad for so long. And it's really, for me, there is no plan B. This is it, you know. And at this point, dude, this is it, you know. So, you know, sink or swim, you know, that is what it is. And I'm a swimming motherfucker, so let's go.
Yeah. And last question, then I promise. How do you? Because I'm just really interested on this one too. Like being from in prison, how do you view like every single day? Like, because a lot of people think like, oh, I could do it tomorrow and shit like that. I'm just curious how you view each day. Like, if you don't want to do something, how do you view each day?
I think that's another good thing is it's not that I don't look into the future. It's just, you know, the best survival mechanism in a place like that, or, you know, this goes for anybody that's going through some hard shit in their life, um, is to just live every day, one day at a time. Like, all that exists is the present moment, you know. Just live where you are right now and do the best you can right now. Whatever your goal is, whatever your thing is that you're trying to do, just use today. If you just use today as best as you can use it, then you'll be successful, you know. Because, you know, getting trapped in the future or the past is the roadblock that ruins most people's lives, or steals their happiness at the very least. So yeah, that's how I do it. And how, you know, I've done everything so far in my life is learning the power of the moment, and just focusing on the best thing you can do right now. You know, not tomorrow, not in a year, right now.
Right now. All right, man. I think that's a perfect place to end then. And I appreciate you just sharing your whole story, man, being open about it. Maybe some things are hard to talk about, but I think people will like to hear about this as well.
I appreciate it, man. It's been fun.
All right, Mitch. Hey, whenever some news comes out about you again, I'll reach out and then we could talk about it again. So hopefully we'll hear something soon from the UFC.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right,
Thank you.
brother. Have a good one and take care.
You too.